Man, what you gonna do now? What we're gonna do right here is go back.
How far you going back?
Way back.
As we go a little something like this. Hit it.
What's going on, everybody? As you may have guessed, we are going back in time today. We are going all the way back to 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and talk about how people came over to our country, started living on this country, and what they went through on their journeys. So, as it may be no surprise, Christopher Columbus is credited for discovering America. But when he first got here, he found the Native Americans, the people, the indigenous people that were living here, and a lot of conflict started because of how he was going about treating them and kind of what the Europeans expected of the Native Americans when they got here. So here's actually an excerpt from his journal when he, discovered America. He says, "They brought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears and many other things, which they exchanged for the glass beads and hawk's bells. They were willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built, with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms, and they do not know them. For I showed them a sword, and they took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance." So that big quote really is just saying Christopher Columbus was sizing up the Native Americans. He was trying to figure out what they know and how he could conquer them and use them as, slave labor. He says they're well built and obviously wants them to do physical labor. And then it also says they have no iron, their spears are made of cane, they would make fine servants. With 50 men we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. So Columbus right away was looking at the indigenous people and seeing what he could do and what he could make them do. Columbus sailed and voyaged mostly around the Caribbean Sea and South America as we know today. So he never really came to America as we know it, but he is credited for discovering this area. After Columbus discovers that there's land out here, a whole bunch of other adventurers, explorers from different countries in Europe are coming over and trying to find out different places. So what we get is different settlements, and French sailors come and find areas in Canada and Louisiana, so that's claimed in French territory. British sailors claim northern Canada and what we know as the 13 colonies, and we have the Spanish and Portuguese coming and sailing in mostly Latin America and South America and claiming those lands. So we have different European countries claiming all these different parts of the New World. As it can imagine, we have sailors coming over from Europe with different cultures, different customs, and they're fighting with the indigenous people. And mostly the Spanish are coming over. They want to conquer these Native Americans, and they want to, make them into slaves and do, their agricultural work. So that's what the violent conflict is happening, and it's mostly with the Spanish. However, the French are coming over, and it's mostly French men, and they're coming just to trade and trap furs. They know there's a lot of beaver and a lot of other animals up in Canada and through the Mississippi, and they are forming positive relationships. They, might need Native Americans to help them out, find where to go to, trap different furs, and it's very much more cooperative. They're not bringing their families over and trying to make their lives here. They're just here to gather resources and, make some money trading furs. Because the Europeans are coming over and they are taking all this different territory, it's no surprise that the Native Americans lost land. They're being pushed away. They're also suffering from things like diseases that they've never been exposed to, European diseases that no one has ever had in North America before. And lastly, in the British and the Spanish territories, we have an agricultural economy being developed. We have these large plantations popping up where they're growing various crops, and we have the introduction of slavery. And we have Africans being brought against their will over to the New World and forced to work, treated very poorly. And the reason for this is the Native Americans aren't very prevalent. It's not easy to capture them if they are being taken away, they're going to obviously move away from these Europeans, and they're not so cooperative anymore after the Spanish and the British are settling down and pushing them away from their lands. That's all we got for today. Make sure you get your schoolwork done, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit a like, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below. Have a good one.